Welcome to this podcast of Super Special Kids and Cake. Yes, cake. I'm Granny Rhea.
And I'm Auntie Donia.
We're coming to you from the studios of Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. This podcast is brought to you by our book, Let's Talk, Navigating Communication Services and Supports for Your Young Child with Autism, published by Paul H. Brooks and available from Amazon.com.
As you know, every week we introduce a super special topic. These topics concern things that excite or aggravate us about trends in the field of special education. We may have some ideas that others don't always agree with, but we really do enjoy discussing them.
Today, we're lucky enough to have a super special guest. Sean Sweeney is a certified speech-language pathologist with 10 years of experience in public schools. He's also served as an instructional technology specialist for 12 years. Currently, he works as a private practitioner and consultant at the Eli Center in Newton, Massachusetts, and is a consultant to Mindwing Concepts Incorporated, creators of the Story Grammar Marker. Sean is also the creator of the SpeechTechie Blog, which in 2010 was awarded the Best New Blog from EduBlogs. He's a regular contributor to the ASHA Leader, a national magazine of speech-language pathology, and to the Mindwing Concepts blog. Sean provides professional development and education for speech-language pathologists, teachers, and clinicians at various schools, clinics, and conferences, and is a frequent presenter at the National ASHA Convention. Welcome, Sean.
Our super special topic for today is apps, and we are joined by our very super special guest, Sean. So, Sean, please tell us more about apps that we can use with super special kids.
Sure. I've always thought that apps and websites are a visual context, and therefore could be used in lots of different ways. I came from a house where my dad was an instructional tech specialist. He was actually called the library media specialist, kind of one of those first ones. And so he used to bring home computers so that he could learn stuff, and I got to learn stuff too. And a lot of the content that he brought home was educational. So for me, when I went through school for speech and language pathology, it took kind of a push from a speaker who came in and showed some tools, and I hadn't even really made the connection that at that time a CD-ROM, but now apps and websites could be used to elicit language, and I think that has always helped me as a therapist, but I think that the same principles can be applied for families who might want to use apps at home to foster interaction and play and storytelling with their kids, the same way that, an early intervention therapist might encourage them to use toys, or the same way that they might use picture books. And believe me, I'm not a tech evangelist, so to speak. I recognize the dangers of having too many screens involved. And I think that when we consider that if we use these things in a balanced way and we use them for co-engagement, so it's a shared context or a joint attention situation where parents and kids are talking about apps, that there's a lot of benefit to that. The American Academy of Pediatrics came out with a bulletin a few years back that anyone can look up. I think it's great. It presents a balanced view of that. It's called Beyond Turn It Off. Anyone can Google that and find that bulletin, and if you look for the PDF version of it, it gives you the full version. And that's where I first saw that term, co-engagement. And I'm like, oh, that's what I've been talking about, because I do some writing and some presentations about this topic to speech and language therapists, and parents sometimes attend too, and the ones who are parents are there too. So I think apps can just be, a way to foster play and tell a story. A really good example are the ones from Toca Boca. So if any family looks up the Toca Boca website, it's terrific because it doesn't require you to have an iPad. You can get these apps on a Kindle Fire or an Android tablet. And since their inception, they have been interested in creating digital toys and fostering different kinds of play. And, some of their early ones really were very smartly designed even to bring kids away from the screen and towards each other, like Toca Store. You put it on the table and you're supposed to have like a bird's eye view of a store and take roles. And one person can be the shopper and one person can be the cashier. And you can use, that kind of app isn't really going to be an experience unless you use the language that goes with that. Like, I'm going to buy this because I want to do this, and that costs this amount, and here's your money, and here's your change, and all of that. So fostering socio-dramatic play is something that can come from those Toca Boca apps. Of late, they have developed this whole series called Toca Life. And they don't want you to live your whole life through the screen or anything, but really what they mean is they have all of these thematic apps that mirror real life. They have a vacation app that has 3 scenes in it. It has an airport and a hotel and a beach. And through each of these scenes, you can move characters through the schema of that experience of being in an airport and checking in at the desk and getting your boarding pass and getting your luggage screened and waiting for the plane and so forth. And
Sean, we had just done a segment on priming kids about traveling, and this was great material for parents to use if they're getting their child ready for a trip, so the child knows what to expect. That's great.
Absolutely. That way of priming is one way I think that we can use to bring them also consider how that screen experience can be valuable itself, because you could be doing a lot of talking, but relate to real life. And another strategy I often use is I would use an app like that and then play with real world toys. Because for some of our kids who their pretend play skills are not so hot, it can be hard to scaffold them through the process of playing with something, but that gives them a preview for play. And it's a heightened experience, using the colors and the animation. And then you can do real world play. And they're going to probably be, in my experience, more successful with that and use some of the language that's in there. So check out all those. As I said, there's a vacation, there's a farm, there's an office, there's a hospital, there's a school. And all of these are really terrific apps for families to check out.
It sounds like they'd be fun too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're great fun. You can even have kids make a movie of what they do on the screen. So there's a little button you can hit that has a video icon on it. And what it does is it records you moving the characters around the screen. And it also records you speaking. So it's kind of like creating a narrative, and then they can see it back. And that's great fun because it's preparing them for later school experiences too, where they have to move from play to creating stories and telling stories. That was one of the original, reasons that an app like Toontastic, which is also another good one, was created, was to scaffold that, the transition between play and writing,
And we know that some of our super special kids, particularly those with autism, benefit a lot from that kind of video modeling. They actually learn more easily from watching a series of events on video than watching real people do it. So that's a great way to incorporate a very effective teaching technique into a recreational play activity.
Yeah, awesome point. And it's one that I made. I just did a presentation at our convention, and I was talking about the use of animation tools. And this is to clinicians, a lot of them kind of having strong opinions about various things. So I kind of did a "Don't Come For Me" section where I was saying, there's all this research about video modeling and how well that can help us. So is there really a big difference between presenting a model of a social behavior in video and presenting it in an animated format? And it's just kind of another way that we can help kids learn.
Absolutely.
So our super special question, Sean, that we wanted to discuss is, how do parents select developmentally appropriate apps? What's the criteria that we would look at, particularly if we're thinking of younger children, so those under the age of 3? And I know there are some apps that are available that use manipulatives as well. So it's not stationary, and I've used some of those myself. But we'd love to hear from you. Like, what's your kind of take on this?
Sure. Another good company, Tokaboka, has a younger brother company. It's part of their whole family called Sago Mini. So those are really great for younger kids. And the company has also been producing manipulatives that go with the apps, like a play set that has the same theme as their particular app. So that's something parents can look at that's sort of ready-made for them. In terms of other criteria, a few things I always like to go for are like some kind of language neutrality to it, like that there's not a lot of talking, there's not a lot of sound, coming out of the app, or an app that you could easily just turn off the sound and it would still have the same meaning, for kids is very helpful, because there is research suggesting that loud electronic toys can stifle talk. So that's one thing that parents can consider. I came up with a criteria with which, if parents are interested in looking into a little bit more, you can find on my website, which is SpeechTechie.com. And it's the FIVES criteria. And that's an acronym. FIVES is fairly priced, interactive, visual, educationally relevant, and speechy, meaning it promotes talk, or promotes turn taking, or promotes listening, or promotes categories, or promotes vocabulary. So that's one thing that parents could look into if they're interested. I took that just from a lot of research I've done out in the field. There's a great resource for parents too, if they go to the website of the Joan Gans Cooney Center. Joan Gans Cooney was one of the founders of Sesame Workshop. And at the website, they have a really terrific booklet called Family Time with Apps. And it promotes a nice balanced view of how you can use apps in kind of a passive way. Well, apps that are meant to be passive, like a game or an ebook, but promote talk around them. But they also have good examples in there. They have actual comics that look like Sesame characters in the booklet of how to make something with kids, like make a booklet about our trip, or make a video. So that's a really good resource for parents to look at, and it gives you a lot of food for thought and actual examples of apps that might be of use. I also like the app Kindertown. Kindertown is an app that is used to help parents find apps, and it's educationally reviewed apps that are of high quality and promote just growth in language arts or math. So not everything has to be, as we said, super educationally tied in, but it's always kind of a nice thing.
And you have a list on your website of apps categorized by various kinds of skills that they...
Yeah, that's actually been kind of a crowdsourced list that I've sort of let grow on its own and haven't interfered with very much, but that's a good thing to look at. And though my website is really kind of speaking out to clinicians about how they can use the apps, and it has a lot of clinical information, parents might find it helpful as well. There's terrific websites like Moms with Apps as well, the iMoms that also really are geared towards parent reviewing of apps and sharing the experience that parents have had with apps with this sort of language development learning point of view.
Yeah, and all those would be relevant to our parents of super special kids who can just think about their child as needing apps at their developmental level rather than at their age level. So if the parent knows that their child is just starting to put words together, regardless of his age, they can look for apps that are appropriate for kids that are just starting to put words together, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You know, Sean, in every one of our episodes, we always talk about our pet peeves. So we'd like to ask you, Sean, what is something that makes you go,
absolutely. I don't know if it would be as strong as that, but it might be more of a shaking my head sort of situation. And, you know, I have been, for the most part, a social skill therapist for the last, 10, 15 years. And so I work a lot on social with kids, and I integrate technology into sessions in ways that will get kids working together and thinking and communicating and conversing so that it becomes more of a communication-based activity. And for me, there is a big difference between that sort of thing and, straight screen time. And while I sympathize with, parents who need to give kids a way to regulate themselves in a situation like a restaurant, I always feel sort of sad, actually, when I see kids on screens at a restaurant and thinking about how they're not learning what we learned, which is that in life, a lot of the time you have to be bored. And 50% of adult life is being bored, isn't it? It takes steps, I think, if that's already a crutch that those students have, that those kids have. But I really, it is great when I see kids learning how to sit at a table and, being on screens too much. I think that people can start to recognize where that is a place that we're using us and the child's not learning to regulate themselves through the situation.
Okay, well, usually now we talk about eating cake for breakfast. Those are the things that people do just for fun with their super special kids. Have you got any ideas, Sean?
One thing I've done lately, and I did do it more as like a therapeutic activity, but I think it could be used as a just for fun. There's a terrific app from Lego, a Lego movie maker, and it allows you to video your Legos and you can play with your Legos and you can tell a story with them and create a little bit of video. And I love that one because there's actually some really good evidence in our field that Legos they promote communication and construction and, visual spatial skills and play and imagination. And so I think that would be a great one.
Conventional Legos, or are they digital Legos? Are they?
Oh no, it's an app that just makes a video, and you're supposed to use your actual Legos. Yeah.
So you're using the tangibles. And what I love about that too, Sean, is that our super special kids can play with their siblings with something.
Oh, definitely.
So it becomes something that isn't just in isolation or just with a parent, but they can do it with other children as well.
Yeah, and for older super special kids, there's an app called Action Movie FX. It does something similar, and both these apps are free. And in that one, you can video a little segment and insert a special effect, like a flood or a tornado, or something like that. So it's a great way to make play, with no objects, as kind of play becomes. As kids get older, they're playing with a lot of their imagination instead of the actual representative toys. So that's a good one for parents to look at too.
And I know that for many of the apps, they're not necessarily developed for super special kids. I mean, it's like you were saying, Sean, like reading the parental reviews, because there are so many. I mean, there's a great storybook one I love. It's the Dr. Seuss books.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's animated, but at the same time, you can either read it yourself or it's read to the child. Mm-hmm. And that would be for, our super special kids and for other children too, or even some of the adult apps. Like I know the one for looking at the stars.
Oh, definitely. That's cool. A
few of the super special kids I know love sort of using that and sort of having a look up into the sky.
Yep, Star Walk. And another app that I definitely encourage parents to look at, kind of, connecting to what you were just sharing, was that there's a service called Epic Books for Kids. I'm a big fan of just reading straight out books, right? But sometimes just having access to more material can be helpful. And Epic Books for Kids is a little subscription service for parents. It's actually free for educators. So anyone who works in a school can get it for free, but it's like a Netflix for children's books. So probably don't use it at bedtime because they say about the light from the screen, right? But it's something to consider too.
I think just thinking about, actually, that's a really good point, Sean, just how we kind of child-proof our devices. So just making sure, because they do make all sorts of kind of screen protectors now, and just making sure that those are in place, like that to make them really developmentally appropriate.
Yep.
And just reminding parents that they do need to really explore the parental controls on the devices to make sure that the kids can only get to what they feel is appropriate for them to get to. It is a little extra effort to learn to do that, but I think it's important. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And understanding like the controls within YouTube and things like that. Because YouTube could be a really wonderful learning opportunity and also a real horror show. So, you really have to be, careful.
Sean, do you have any suggestions of how you control the screen? Because I know there are some different ways where the child can kind of stay with an app rather than them kind of clicking out of it.
Yeah.
I like to sort of swipe, so how to sort of help them use it.
For the iPad and iPhone, there's a feature in the accessibility settings. So you go into general and then accessibility, and it's called guided access. And that can allow you to lock the screen into a particular app. So that's always good for a parent to know that if they're, allowing a child to use a particular app, that they're not going to leave that app and go to another thing or another place. And that's just done with like the home button, with clicks of the home button, and then a passcode is set. And there's also a whole section of restrictions where, certain apps can be, shut off on an iPad, like the web browser, if you don't want kids to have free reign of the Wild West there.
Yeah, that's great advice. And probably parents can ask their teenagers how to do those things. The kids will probably.
Yes. And YouTube is their parents' friend there too, just kind of, there's all sorts of good information on the internet. In fact, ASHA has a new section of their website around healthy communication. It's called their Healthy Communication and Popular Technology Initiative. So parents can check out that site. It's really geared towards parents and not clinicians, but looking on YouTube about, controlling restrictions for your kids. With mobile devices, we'll give parents a lot of video guides that will show them like where actually to click and make the changes. And
that ASHA website, if parents are interested in looking for that information, is asha.org. And it's free and open to parents by clicking on the parent link.
And Sean, your website sounds like
and
great resources as well for parents to go to.
Thank you. Yep, that's SpeechTechie.com.
SpeechTechie.com, absolutely. Okay, well, I think it's time for our favorite part of the episodes, John, and that's where we eat our cake. Now, today we have salted caramel brownie from Whole Foods. So chocolate,
wow,
so caramel. So I'm going to break you off a little piece and let you have a taste.
Okay. Oh, thanks very much.
Okay. So this one's very rich, don't you think?
Really is, and it's actually got some. I love the combination of salt with caramel. That's one of my absolute favorite combos.
And even salt with chocolate, so it's not bad.
And no nuts for me, so that's good. Cause,
no nuts.
I have to go get an allergy test today, ironically. So yeah. Oh, I'm allergic to like everything. There's actually a retest.
The Let's Talk About Super Special Kids and Cake podcast would like to thank our host, Sacred Heart University's School of Communication and Media Studies. We'd also like to thank our composer, Marty Eisenberg, our audio editor, Brent Morton, and our audio engineer and director of cake-based operations, Keith Stryovi.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a review.